and find something you're passionate about besides Ziggy.
Hey, everybody. Oh, we got Michelle Bean coming in first. So you know what that means. Wiener, wiener, chicken dinner. How's everybody doing? Hey, Caleb, and hey, Kelly. How was everybody's first day with this time change? Did it affect you in any way? I did think, I was like, whoa, I slept a really long time. I mean, I slept a long time, but I usually do on Sundays. But then I realized, I was like, oh, okay. That's right. We jump forward an hour. Exhausted, about to go to bed. Well, I'm not about to go to bed right this second, but after I get off here, I have promised myself that I'd go live. I'm trying to be consistent. Consistency is not my favorite pastime, really. So I'm trying something different. It's different for me. So, if you want different results, you have to do something different, right? Because doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results, is insanity. Hey, Sheba. You're about to go. You're going to sleep, Sammy? Well, I appreciate you stopping by. Sorry that was so late, but I did notice that. Sammy? Oops. Sorry, I was pulling up my. Anyway, sorry that it's so late. It's just that there was too many channels on at once. So I was trying to hold out for a little bit, but I couldn't hold out much longer because otherwise I'm going to talk myself out of going live and then break my promise. And there are people who, believe it or not, look forward to me coming on here. I know it's laughable, but hey, I guess they like hanging out here. Hey, Robin. Hey, Sherry. Pick one and stick with it. What do you mean? Pick a time slot? Hey, baby. Is he out working? I don't know. He left Friday. Maybe he hasn't got back from leaving. About leaving to where Candace couldn't say. Well, where do you think that is? Has anybody asked Don about his hookers yet? Don, why don't you ever come over here? Grace bless us with your presence over here so I can ask you about your favorite place, Knoxville, because curious minds over here, we want to know what's in Knoxville. I want to ask him about this Playboy person. Oh, you mean with the time? Oh, I see what you mean. Not YouTubers. You're talking about. Well, aren't they going to stop with the time changes? Isn't this like the why do I think I heard somewhere that this is like the last time change? Oh, really, BB? What'd she do that was disgusting on Daisy's? I tuned in for a second, but by the time I got there, she was off, and I noticed that the lab had over 1,000 in his chat, so I figured it was something good. What do you mean you know about? What do you mean you know about Knoxville? Which color is that, Jan? I probably don't know. I was trying to go back and forth between them, and so plus I've been doing some other things like why does RJ, do you have a channel? If RJ knows, if RJ is welcome to come up here if there's something about well, I don't have anything going on to not, I mean, if you want to come up here, you're totally welcome to, because I don't have a topic anyways. Besides, I did want to pass on a message from Fred Hill. Do you know somebody, RJ, do you know somebody from Knoxville that's seen Dawn around them parts? Oh, I know, RJ. I know how it can be. Okay, cool. Well, I'll have to remember that so I can. You live in Kingsport? So you know something about his connection to Knoxville? I'm really interested in that. So is there any truth to that? Like, as far as did you hear the story that the lady that contacted me told me about her having a friend that used to be a prostitute and her run-in with Dawn Wells? Anything to do with prostitution? Or should I say Lady of the Night, to be more politically correct? I don't know. Somebody remind me tomorrow to try to. RJ, do you have your email on your channel? Because if somebody can remind me to, in case I forget, I'll take a note to email RJ. But that way because I'd love to hear. Okay, cool. Oh, I'm sorry, Jerry. Well, you guys could catch the replay if you want. I don't really. I mean, who knows? Some of the best nights we've had here is when I don't have really much to talk about. I watch Squall, but I've been trying to text her and she won't respond because I have a feeling that she knows. I tried asking her a question about my trip down there to Tennessee the last time, and I don't know if I should take her silence as meaning that she just doesn't want to say that she knows what I'm asking her. And we're from around town, but Knoxville connection is more drug connected. Yeah. Well, and with drugs, that lifestyle, they kind of go together, you know, especially the drug that Dawn likes. Have you ever heard any rumors beyond what you've heard from me in this channel? Have you ever heard any other rumors from anybody else about Dawn and Andy? Like them both going on drug runs together, or because that's also, I mean, like, have you heard any rumors about Andy Bernard having, I mean, Andy left to Knoxville right after Summer went missing, after hanging down at the bottom of the driveway for 3 days. And then goes off to Knoxville for like 20 some days. No, I mean going to Knoxville, Darlene. Jay Sue says that Andy would go to Knoxville to pick up drugs. Hey, Kathy. I know they were in Knoxville around the same time, but not together. I would have to look up a town name, Fairgrounds, that they were rumored to have gone together, not far from Rogersville. Like, yes, the fairgrounds in Cott County or Cook County, Cott County Fairgrounds. Yeah, there's something with that. There's definitely something with that. Because we keep getting brought to this. Why does this fairgrounds like keep coming up? I feel like there's something to that Cott County Fairgrounds. That's the one, Cott County. See, that's oh no, Kathy, go to sleep. Sleep it off. Yeah, I hate being sick, dude. And it's even more miserable when you can't go to sleep and you have to sit there and suffer. So you've heard these, yeah, something's up with Cott County. There was, and I've tried looking into what was going on in the area at the time. I don't think that there was really anything. But I got your email, RJ. Did I email you back when when you contacted me? Because if you guys are you sorry if you're not a RJ? I think are you are you a girl? Such a weird question. I don't want to. RJ sounds like a boy's name, but okay. I'm just hoping I emailed you back because I've been so bad with emails. I remember when I'm not even kidding. When my channel was first, like now it's plateaued, but back when things were crazy with the Summer Wells case and there was, we had prayer guard and all that stuff. I would get like 100 emails a day. I'm not kidding. And I would feel like I have to email everybody back and I would feel so bad. Like it was overwhelming. But that's how you get some of the best information. And that's a lot. That's what I try to tell people. Like some people were like, how does Ziggy keep getting these, interviews or these things keep happening? Well, because a lot of the information and this people like the stuff and, the information I got came from you guys, from emailing me and putting me in contact with people or sending me, you know what I mean? And a lot of creators just don't check their emails because it gets, or they do, or they miss a lot of emails, you know what I mean? So I really try to, I feel bad when I don't respond back though, but definitely a guy. Okay, I just want to make sure because I didn't. This community is, 90% women, so. But the RJ sounds like a guy's name, so, Ugh, that sucks, Kathy. Okay, yeah, I remember that. Let's see. Somebody sent me this video. Doesn't have anything to do with summer. It's about Debbie Collier. There it is. They've changed StreamYard around a little bit and it's kind of confusing. This is It's a Crime. I thought though, I've been knowing that her body, 80% of her body was burned. That didn't just come out, I don't think, did it? Because do you guys know about the Debbie Collier case? It is very interesting. They ruled this woman's death a suicide, but it's the most, it doesn't seem like a suicide. To me, it seems so obvious to me that her daughter is involved. But that's just my opinion. It's not fact, it's opinion. The way the money, I mean, come on. Look who the money goes to right before she passes away. Yeah, I've been kind of coughing myself. But I guess some more stuff came out, I guess, about it. Yeah, who would unalive themselves by it just by a fire? I don't know. This is just the weirdest, strangest thing. You noticed. Sorry.
Happened, why, and how. And why would she choose to go out that way? A very painful way, and a rare choice at that. Was it Debbie that actually wrote and sent that text? Did she actually commit suicide? There are so many people who feel conflicted, myself included, about the cause and manner of her death. Even Debbie's own grown-up children have said something about it, and this also makes things just that much more curious. One child who's publicly supporting the suicide theory, and one who doesn't. Well, now the autopsy results are in, and authorities are doubling down on their suicide ruling, but some experts believe that although the coroner ruled it a suicide, the evidence seems to still point to murder, and it should be further looked at. So today we're going to look and talk about the findings of the autopsy report, what the experts say, and talk about the confusion that surrounds that suicide and by 9.5 tarp and a reusable tote bag. When her body was found, she was found next to the tarp and tote bag and burned. But if it was suicide, what would she need a rain poncho for? And what about those paper towels? That in itself doesn't make sense. Let me know what you think below. Not to mention the fact that if you're going to kill yourself, why are you going to care about where you're going to buy the supplies? Was it that she didn't want to be seen in her hometown and drove an hour away? Or was it that she was told to go somewhere else by someone else, and perhaps someone wanted her to buy those supplies, not knowing she was buying her own death kit? Let me know your thoughts below. Now, in November of 2022, just 2 months later, her death was ruled as a suicide. And it said a detailed examination of all gathered information has enabled investigators to determine, based on factual evidence and data, that Mrs. Collier's death was self-inflicted. Furthermore, the GBI Medical Examiner's Office has determined that the cause of death was inhalation of superheated gases, thermal injuries, and hydrocodone intoxication, and that the manner of death was suicide. Now, Debbie had 2nd and 3rd degree burns.
Okay. Hydrocodone and what did that say? Intoxication or overdose of the hydrocodone. Oh my God. I remember this now. I forgot about that part for a second. Okay. She had an overdose on hydrocodone. It would have been the Tylenol that killed her. I don't know, guys. I guess if you have I don't know. Hydrocodone is very, very low class of pain narcotic, and it has more Tylenol than anything, and the Tylenol is what would kill you. From what I hear, ODing on Tylenol is like really painful. So they're trying to act like she took a whole bunch of these like hydrocodones, which are very not even strong, which it would have, I mean, her stomach would have probably felt like it. I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into the consequences or the results of taking a massive amount of Tylenol. Yes, I suspect her daughter totally. Joe kind of did a show on a young girl who set herself on fire. She was still alive when they got there. Joe Kinda. What? That sounds... Why would somebody do that? He died of a hydrocodone overdose? I have never heard of such a thing. I would think they would say acetaminophen. There's a lot of Tylenol in those. I don't know. If I was going to choose like any type of pain pill, I mean, I know that you have to use what you got access to, I guess. But it's definitely not one I would choose. Oh, we're just talking about the Debbie Collier case. It's just 10 milligrams of the codeine. 10 milligrams of those, or of a hydrocodone, has 1,000 milligrams of acetaminophen. It's 10 milligrams of the codeine. So per 10 now, unless you get one of the ones that in a hydrocodone, that's what 10 milligrams has 1,000 milligrams of acetaminophen. 7.5 has 7.5 milligrams of codeine and 750 milligrams of acetaminophen. Then the 5 milligram codeine, and then 500 milligrams acetaminophen. But there are like Norcos that will have a little bit of a reduced amount. Some are, it depends, like if it's Norco or Tab Vicodin, they're all basically hydrocodones, but some are cut with Tylenol, and then some cut with ibuprofen. That's crazy. I'm sorry. I find that funny. I know that this was supposed to be a dig at me, but I find that hilarious. A little pep to her step. Oh my gosh. I don't know who Joe Kenda is. I'm just like because it is, I do know a lot about prescription medicines, especially opiates. Linda, is that her name? Oh, I don't know. We're watching about Debbie Collier. Overdose. It's very interesting. I'm not making that. Huh. Yeah, I'd love to hear about it. And no, Joe Kenda has not passed. Because we're listening about Debbie Collier.
Involving 80% of her total body surface area. Initially, though, we heard that it was just Debbie's stomach that was burned, not at 80% of her body. As for the hydrocodone, it was said that Debbie often took that pain medication as prescribed by her doctor due to a prolonged back injury. Initially, the case was ruled as a homicide, and they were pretty strong in that conviction. The Georgia authorities deemed it personal and targeted, but never publicly named any suspects. The night before Debbie vanished, neighbors reported that they heard a commotion coming from Debbie's house and that the family frequently were screaming and fighting. And what was interesting was that Debbie's daughter Amanda and her boyfriend Andrew, who has a very volatile relationship, even if they're even together now, but in the past has been pretty crazy, and they came to town shortly before Debbie's death. It was a couple days before. Now, when Debbie was found, it was said she was partially nude in a ravine positioned near an uprooted tree. She was found on her back with her right hand gripping a tree and burns on her stomach. A partially blue tarp and red tote bag was found nearby, which is what she bought from the dollar store. But in the autopsy, it didn't just say that it was her stomach. It was said that it was extensive second and third degrees that covered covered 80% of her body. It also said autopsy examination revealed thermal injuries of the external body surface and the tracheal mucosa, which is the windpipe, no deposited soot in the airway, and no significant elevation of blood carboxyhemoglobin. The report also said that no other significant injuries were noted. These findings, it said, may be due to a sudden intense flash fire as well as the outdoor environment of the fire. It was also noted that a melted gas can was found near the burn site, suggesting it was the source of the flash fire. Now, I also read that that wasn't found until weeks after the investigation. And it also said she was also found slightly downhill from the fire. The report also said that Debbie had third-degree burns to her face, charred portions of her scalp, and charred leathery skin throughout her body. As for the suicide in the report, it just states, investigation by law enforcement revealed circumstances consistent with a self-intentioned act and that she was alone at the time of the incident. Just tell me, how do they know that she was alone in this wooded area? What are your thoughts? And I also want to talk about the location where she was found because it's very, very curious. First, Debbie has a 15.
I don't know. I guess they probably have their reasons to rule this a suicide. But my first gut instinct or intuition tells me that, I mean, when you've got that money going to her daughter, that just seems so obvious to me. And isn't it also been said that Debbie was closer with her son? So for her to send, it wouldn't, like, that wouldn't have been like her to send the daughter. I don't know. It's just weird. Why would you send one child? I mean, yeah, I like it. I like this channel. She's good. She's intelligent and knows what she's talking about. So I just put my little jacket thing on backwards, but oh well.
Minute window, 15 to 30 minutes, I believe I had in one of my previous videos, that the time is not accounted for. Also, where she was found was near a retreat for men who have addictions. And the interesting thing is, and I did have it in a video before, and I'll put that in the description box below, but when Debbie left the dollar store, she was driving back towards Athens, Georgia. But in order to go where she was, she had to do a U-turn and drive back and then park and then go into this ravine, which is where this rehab center is for men. Now, interestingly, Amanda's boyfriend was ordered by a court to go to rehab, and he didn't. And that was about spring, I believe. And then he was ordered again to go do that. So I found the timing very interesting. And I found the amount, the $2,385 Venmo amount, very interesting as well, because it is very close to what it would be for that payment for the rehab center. So check out my other videos on this. It's fascinating. And we also talked about the actual Venmo payment note itself. So I will have that below. Now, Joseph Scott Morgan, a death investigator and host of a podcast called Body Bags with Joseph Scott.
I don't know if I would use the amount. I don't think the amount should be, I don't find that suspicious for the daughter and her boyfriend, because, I mean, who's going to just take the exact amount of what they need for probation? If you're a criminal, you're going to take more than that, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't see somebody. It is a very, very, very odd amount. I guess I don't know what kind of people we're dealing with, I guess. I mean, maybe they're not very, like, they're really, really not intelligent. I don't know, but because it's just odd. Who would take the exact amount that they need for probation? No, I think there's, well, for one, we're talking about Debbie Collier. So people only come in here if it's about Summer Wells usually. Plus it's 12:30, and isn't there somebody else live? Daisy's live, I think. So, and she had Candace in there, so a lot of people are going to probably be over there. But I kept waiting to go live because I noticed that there was Lab was live and Daisy was live, but I couldn't put it off any longer because otherwise I was going to fall asleep and end up not going live. So yeah, I'm guessing everybody's over at Daisy's right now, and I don't blame them. You know, if especially if Candace is over there acting a fool. Or the drama. Yeah, drama does get the numbers for sure. Oh, PG's live? Yeah, and there's like a little war between PG and Daisy, so, you know, that's I guess it's fun to watch the drama back and forth, I guess, for people. And so yeah, that's where everybody is. Okay. You don't watch Daisy or Her Garden? I like Daisy. And I mean, I like Prayer Garden too because she's entertaining and crazy. But I mean, I had her on my channel basically as a co host for like months, it seems like. So, and also, she's like mad at me because, you know, I confirm that I believe she's Patricia. I know I'm waiting for Justin for All to do my skit because that is going to be amazing. I love making fun of. I don't know why. Is that weird? I find that so funny. It's all in good, as long as it's not like, you know, like where talk about personal, you know, or like about Jim or something like that. That's different. But when it's in good fun, just making fun of me about how I talk or something, I find those hilarious. Tonight, Candace said PG lived in Tennessee. Really? Yeah.
Morgan, he talked about this case and evidence collection, and it was quite fascinating. He first said that this is the most bizarre case that he's seen. He had a guest on as well, and it was only reported in the beginning, like I mentioned earlier, that Debbie's stomach was charred, but now it's reported, 80% of her body. And on Joseph's show, he had a guest, a Crime Online reporter, and he said someone is lying here. They talked about evidence on the show, and Joseph talked about clothing specifically. He said, in an investigation, when you collect the clothing and it's associated with fire, in cases like arson, they take the clothing and they put it in something that looks like a metallic paint can, and they use that for evidence collection. He says if there's any accelerant like lighter fluid, gasoline, kerosene, he says that as the clothing begins to settle in the can, because of gravity, the fumes begin to rise inside that can. And then he says they take something that looks like a giant needle, and he says they insert it into the can, and then the air is drawn off and then goes to the lab, and then they test it. So he was curious and wanted to know about this gas and if there was anything left in that can or any accelerant that was on her clothing. Now, I did some research and also says that arson analysis did find that gasoline was on her clothes. When it came to leathery skin, Joseph talked about desiccated skin, that it's the absence of moisture because of being exposed to intense heat. And he said the concentration of burns were on her head and face. And he says that it tells us that there was a heavy concentration of an accelerant or fuel source. So in this case, it would be gas. Now, Court TV talked about Debbie's death and asking if it was a murder or suicide. And they talked about remnants of a gas can, how rare it is to set oneself on fire in suicides, and fire starting in the car, because they're saying that it started in the vehicle. Well, how did Debbie go? Did she just walk herself down there if that's suicide? It sounds so much like the Justin Evans case. I have tons of videos on that you can see below. Now, this type of suicide is called self-immolation, and they use accelerant and they set themselves on fire. And when they do that, he says there's an expectation of finding evidence of debris, usually in the airway. And that wasn't the case with Debbie. Joseph said, and I quote, "It ain't there." He said he's saying or suggesting that it may be that she was burned after she died. And it wouldn't be Debbie that would be able to do that, obviously, if she's already dead, which means that Debbie wouldn't be alone. Now, Joseph said that they look for debris and an inflammatory response. He says in her trachea, it would be indicative of inhalation of superheated gas. He said when people take a big inhale and then they intake oxygen, the fire seeks out that oxygen and then thrives in it. So the question would be, was she inhaling this gas? The problem is that they're not finding that in the autopsy. Now, as for the hydrocodone, as I mentioned, those were the meds she was taking for her back pain or back injury. And Joseph said that these are the levels that she had surpassed the expected amount, and it was 4 times over, but also heard they were therapeutic levels. So there's those discrepancies again. Now, Joseph asked, which is it that killed her? Was it the drugs or was it the burning? Post-mortem burning, which is after death, wouldn't have that change in the trachea that shows exposure. And so this is the question these experts are saying, like, what is going on? It's not there. And he said self-immolation is very rare. And he said in his career, maybe he's seen a total of 4. He said it was the type of case that would go to a forensic conference and see papers presented on this. That's how significant this is, these findings. He talked about deaths and said, all deaths, not some, not a few. He said all deaths are homicides until proven otherwise. We have to be skeptical. He says we have to assume that there is other than what we are seeing, because if you don't cover all your bases and treat it with the same degree of care you would in a homicide, you will miss something. Now, in my research, I found some.
So she didn't have any type of inhalation. If this was not in her lungs, if she didn't have any, that means that she was already deceased when she was set on fire. That just makes sense. Sorry, I was eating a cereal bar or granola bar. I like listening. What is this? Is this lady does she have a PhD or something? She seems really intelligent. Patricia is Prayer Garden. Yeah, you can only talk about Summer Wells so much. It's just, I'm responding to Bushi about other, her mentioning looking into other cases. There's just, I'm going to still cover Summer. I mean, when things like come up, and we'll probably still talk about her every day, but were any pictures floating around? You mean of her? I haven't seen any. I don't think there was any pictures. I wouldn't want to see them because it sounds like she was pretty bad burned. Oh my God, that's horrible, Moonshine Girl. Somebody, a girl here, at the local high school here, like a few days ago. My daughter knows who she is, because when my daughter was going to the actual public school here in person, This girl, she unalived herself, I guess. And I guess the rumor is somebody told her to kill herself, and then she did. It's just sad, man. Peachy is evil. Oh man. I mean, that's what I hear, Donna. I hear people say that, that people, well, I've heard rumors of that. People who claim that they know her say that she's evil and the God stuff is fake.
Really interesting things about self-immolation. It refers to an altruistic suicide, giving or sacrificing oneself by setting themselves on fire or oneself on fire and burning to death. That is not a good way to go. Not that there's any ways that's good to go, but this is an extremely rare and mostly done by men, from what my research was, than women. And it's usually a political statement. They frequently use accelerants before igniting themselves. This, combined with the self-immolators' refusal to protect themselves, they can produce hotter flames and deeper, more extensive burns. It says self-immolation has been described as excruciatingly painful. Later, the burns become severe, nerves are burnt, and the self-immolator loses sensation at the burnt areas. Some self-immolators can die during the act from inhalation of toxic combustion products, hot air and flames. Remember, Debbie didn't have that in her system. It says the body has an inflammatory response to burnt skin, which happens after 25% is burnt in adults. This response leads to blood and body fluid loss. If the self-immolator is...
Oh my God, dude. I'm like, that is like very, oh my gosh. Sorry. That was making me kind of sick thinking of that, because that was quite painful. Oh gosh. Oh man. Oh. So after, the thought of that is just so like, oh my God. Yeah, I know. She does have a lot of anger. Wow. I don't know why anybody would do that. Wow. Unless they were just like out of their mind on drugs or something, like acid, maybe like, I could see it happening maybe that way. But oh my God. So after you're burning for at 25%, after you get past the nerves or whatever, I guess you don't feel any type of pain. Oh my God, that is so crazy. And you're just sitting, oh my God. Ooh. Peach, it can get worse. Yeah, I had to take a break of what she was saying, because it was like painting a picture in my mind of what happens when somebody sets themselves on fire with an accelerant. I would say too that it's usually, if somebody chooses to do something like that, you would think like me. I mean, I could see somebody being like, okay, I'm going to take a whole bunch of pills. I'm going to build a fire. I'm going to take a whole bunch of pills, and I'm going to get so messed up that I pass out into the fire. And if the pills don't kill me, then the fire will. Is that what they think happened? Hey, Tritiel.
not taken to a burn center in less than 4 hours, they are more likely to die from shock. If no more than 80% of their body area is burnt, which Debbie's was 80%, and the self-immolator is younger than 40, there is a survival chance of 50%. If the self-immolator has over 80%, the survival rate drops to 20%. It says self-immolation is a rare method of suicide and one of the most drastic methods. However, it most often refers specifically to this term called autocremation, the act of sacrificing oneself by setting oneself on fire and burning to death. It's typically used, as I said, for political or religious reasons, often as a form of non-violent protest or in acts of martyrdom. It has a centuries-long recognition as the most extreme form of protest possible by humankind. As I said earlier, during my research, it's mostly men who chooses this method rather than women. It also talks about when the accelerant is used. It says, such as burning on top of clothing, the fire burns hotter and deeper, leading to amputations of extremities such as hands and feet. When I look at the statistics, this is interesting too. This is the stats in USA in 2020. Suicide is the 12th leading cause of death in the US. The rate of suicide is highest in middle-aged white men. In 2020, men died by suicide 3.88 times more than women. On average, there's 130 suicides per day. Now, white males accounted for 69.68% of suicide deaths in 2020. And in 2020, firearms accounted for 52.83% of all suicide deaths. And the suicide rate for males was 3 times higher than the rate of females. It's very interesting. It says, although suicide...
That is interesting to me, because you would think, I don't know, you would think like women are more emotional and stuff. Or maybe you think it's because men keep their emotions inside and they don't let out that emotion, and so it just like builds inside of them. And is that why it's mostly men? Because you would think it'd be mostly women because they're the most emotional. You know, it could be also maybe there's a lot of pressure on men to not show emotion and to keep up a household. You know, as far as traditional, like, a lot of men feel like I don't know. There's just a lot of, it's one thing to be a woman, and like as a woman, you can get away with certain things like more so than men can. Like, men are expected to take, I think, I don't know, more logical. I don't know about that. I guess it matters. But it's just, I don't know why I thought it would be, I never thought of that before as far as like the percentage of the population or percentage of men to women of suicide deaths. Like, I just feel like women are more emotional. Men make hasty decisions. Yeah. Hey, Sassy.
Suicide deaths affect almost all age groups. Those aged 40 to 59 had the highest rates. Married people had a lower suicide rate than those who were single, divorced, or widowed, and methods of suicide vary by sex and age. Now, when it comes to fire-related suicides, most fire-related suicides were a result of smoke inhalation, which was 52%, while another 12% were caused by a combination of smoke inhalation and burns, and 29% were due to burns alone, for example, this self-immolation. Between 2011 and 2020, coroners and medical examiners found that accelerants such as gasoline or kerosene were used in 42% of fire-related suicides. In 8% of these suicides, accelerant containers were found at the scene, but it was unclear if they had been used. And it says the use of accelerants varied depending on the cause of death. Coroners and medical examiners reported that accelerants were used in more than half of burn-related suicides. So when it comes to the environment, it says fire-related suicides happen both indoors and outdoors on residential, which is 61%, and non-residential 33%. In nearly 1 in 6 residential fire-related suicides, the person was outside, 13%, in a backyard, driveway, or in a parked vehicle. On the property, 3%. The majority of residential fire-related suicides happen indoors, including inside a house, 38%, multi-unit dwelling, 13%, barn or shed, 4%, movable dwelling, 1%, or in an unspecified indoor residential location, 20%. And then residential location was not specified in 8% of the cases. In non-residential fire-related suicides, the majority occurred in a parked vehicle, which was 65%, or outdoors in public areas, 29%. 6% of non-residential happened indoors, such as in the workplace. There's a difference in men and women choosing this method. Men were over 3 times more likely than women to die in a fire-related suicide from 2011 to 2020. And it said men are likely to use violent methods like hanging or firearms, while women are more likely to use less violent methods like poisoning. What's interesting is in high...
Very interesting. Sorry, I played that a little long because I had to step away, but that's interesting. I guess I just never really thought about that. What if she took all the pills and fell into the fire? Never met a woman that doesn't have at least one feature they consider beautiful about themselves. Really? What made you say that? So you think women are like narcissistic? First beer of the night. Just kidding. I still have the same case of beer in the fridge. The same, it's been there ever since, I mean, it's still there ever since I dated Jason. It's probably like expired now. I don't know how good can of beer is, but oh, okay. I guess I'm lost. Clip.
Higher income countries, self-immolation is rare and mostly affects men, while in lower income countries, it is more common and mostly affects women. Iran has one of the highest rates of self-immolation. It is more frequently associated with a history of mental illness or substance abuse in higher income countries than in lower income countries. And it says that circumstances commonly reported by coroners and medical examiners investigating fire-related suicides that had mental health conditions, potential role of alcohol or drugs, severe illness, chronic pain, and cognitive disabilities. Mental illness reported in nearly 2/3 of fire-related suicides. And it was also reported that a deceased individual may have consumed alcohol or drugs, which would have open containers found on the scene. Alcohol or drug consumption may impair judgment, obviously, and decrease inhibition and increase impulsivity. So the question is, was Debbie's hydrocodone container there on the scene? What about her purse? Why wouldn't there just be an overdose? Why, right? If she had access to this, why go to the severity of burning herself? What was it? If it's suicide, was she trying to say or protest? The stats also said severe illness, chronic pain, or cognitive disability reported nearly 1/6 of fire-related suicides. Now, there was another expert who was weighing in on this, Dr. Michael Baden. He's a famed forensic pathologist, and he believes that Debbie was likely murdered and didn't kill herself as authorities claim. He says about the lack of evidence in her airway, he says from a forensic point of view, that would indicate that she was dead before the fire started. It would have to be severely weak.
Yep. I guarantee her daughter is Shady McGee. Those who have looked into this case at all, her daughter's got a sketchy background, and her daughter is just so happens to be the one the money was sent to.
windy to blow away any carbon monoxide. He said, which is unlikely because it was in a dense wooded area where she was found. He says, I think the medical examiner doesn't understand what forensic pathology is. He said that Debbie's levels of hydrocodone were higher than the therapeutic dose, but says it's impossible to tell what her actual tolerance was for it because she was on them for a while. And then when he was talking about the toxicology report, Dr. Baden said about a little less than half of people would die from the levels found in Debbie. But if she did die of an overdose, the question of how the fire started is there. And then he said her cause of death should be labeled hydrocodone overdose with post-mortem fire injuries. He also questions the suicide conclusion, especially that she was found partially naked. He said that the fact that Debbie was found naked makes him further question the suicide conclusion. He made a very good point as well about her clothing. He said, you usually need clothing to set yourself on fire. Why would Debbie be partially clothed? And the autopsy notes that there were charges.
That's a really good point. That's a really, really good point. If you really were going to set yourself on fire and you're going to put accelerant on yourself, you're going to want clothes on to soak up that accelerant. What's she going to do? Not wear clothes? Nobody's going to not wear clothing that would make you suffer longer. It was not an invitation for a tryst. What's a tryst? I guess that would be like a romp in the sheets. A rumble with the bumble, like on Annie. You guys, any of you guys know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I think I did, Dee Dee. I think I did. Doesn't the son think the daughter had something to do with it? A tryst is a threesome?
Remnants of clothing present in the distribution of the lower torso. There was the statement that the police made about Debbie being alone in those woods, but they didn't have any proof. It didn't show that in the autopsy. And Dr. Baden said if Debbie died there before the fire, as he believes she did, then at least one other person was there with her. The medical examiners for the Georgia Bureau of Investigation admitted they didn't come to the conclusion that Debbie killed herself on their own, but saying in the autopsy report that the investigation by law enforcement revealed circumstances consistent with the Self-Intention Act. Dr. Baden said that means the police told me it was a suicide. We're not just rubber stamps for the police, but some people think we are. He also said, usually the GBI is much better than most. I'm kind of upset that they could call the kind of case a suicide, especially with her being found naked. That's outrageous. Now let's talk about Debbie's daughter, Amanda Bearden. What was initially reported was that law enforcement said that Debbie Collier was murdered in a personal and targeted slaying, not a random act of violence. They said, we do not believe that this was a random act of violence. We do not believe that this is the act of a serial killer. The chief deputy said, we believe that this act was deliberate and personal. It was also reported earlier that investigators continued to rule out suicide and remained a murder investigation. So why the change? And then with these autopsy results and what the experts saying, why the change? Now, when the initial suspicion was that her mother was murdered, Amanda, according to police documents, had been given approximate location of Debbie's rental vehicle, and she apparently arrived at the scene in a hysterical state. She told investigators that her mom didn't suffer from any known mental issues or any suicidal tendencies. After her death and when she was found, she said, my mom was my everything. Somebody took my whole world from me. She was a beautiful, kind, giving woman. She didn't deserve this. Later, she changes her belief. She changed her mind and said that there were actions that looking back seemed weird to her and said her mom was giving away her things and had taken a whole week off before she vanished. Amanda said she was dealing with stuff that she didn't want to burden me with, which how does she know that, right? She also said that Debbie had been depressed, even though other reports said that she said the opposite. She said she had nothing to do with her mom's death because people were pointing the finger at her, and she said she gave a sample of her DNA to the authorities. Amanda said, I'd never seen her that sad. When she left the house, she wouldn't even tell me goodbye. Now, let me know what your thoughts below in there. Weigh in on this. Amanda also said that there were other key intimate things that were shared with her that convinced her to look into the suicide theory, but she was
Of course the daughter's gonna be. See what I mean? Think about it. Of course you would want to make people believe it was a suicide. She's just acting. Maybe it's that she's like, it's so obvious that they don't see it. I don't know, because it's just crazy. Of course she's going to want people to believe it's a suicide. Private romantic rendezvous. Yeah, I didn't think it was a threesome, but you know, I didn't think so, but I don't know. I'm not a threesome connoisseur.
not ready to share those details as of yet. Now, one thing to note is Amanda reported that Debbie didn't take her purse with her, only took her debit card and driver's license with her, but we see her in the store with her purse in hand. So Amanda strengthened the suicide theory by saying Debbie was giving things away. Debbie had taken the week off work. And we know that Amanda and her boyfriend went for lunch with her, might have been dinner the day before. Amanda also said Debbie had made some strange comments. She'd never seen her that sad and kept asking her if she was okay. Amanda was also asked if maybe Debbie might have staged her death, maybe because of, to collect life insurance. But Amanda said she didn't believe that there was life insurance. I haven't heard anything after that about the life insurance. Let me know what if you've heard that below. Now let's go to Amanda's brother and Debbie's son, Jeffrey Bearden. He has said all along that he believes his mom was murdered. He said he wasn't going to stop until he knew the truth about her death. He said he won't stop until the person is in jail or on death row. Now, when it came to Jeffrey's thoughts about his sister Amanda, he said, I do not think my sister has the capacity to hurt my mom. She was my mom's lifeline, but I don't trust the people that my sister hangs out with, and that's my concern. Jeffrey also questioned why his mom would go to the dollar store an hour away when they live a half a mile from one. He said, I don't know why my mom was up there. It doesn't make sense to me why she was in Clayton, especially that there is a dollar store that she frequently visited that was less than a mile from her home in Athens. And about the purchases, he said, I've never known her to be a camper. I mean, we have tarps at the house. My stepdad works in construction. I found about 20 to 30 reusable bags at my house. She was very green. She had a bunch of those. And it's interesting that he said that and called her a camper because it looked like camping supplies. And interestingly, that rehab center that I talked about earlier actually has a program where they go out and they do camping type things for rehabilitation. Interesting, right? Jeffrey also said that the woman in the video from the surveillance doesn't even look like his mom. He said, I have a lot of concerns about if that was my mom in that actual video because that doesn't actually appear of like her posture. He said the large Venmo amount was very out of character for his mom as well. He said, I've never seen my mom Venmo that large amount of money. And he said that he wasn't sure about the word they that was written in there. Remember, it was said, they are not going to let me go. Love you. There is a key in the house in the blue flower pot by the door. Again, I did a video before that. And when it's sent to Amanda going they, it's assuming she already knows who they is. So it's very interesting about that. Jeffrey said, I'm left still feeling this is a homicide based on discussions I've had with law enforcement. But then again, with how long everything has gone on, some of the decisions that have been made.
Sorry, that's pretty interesting. Also, I was eating a Pop-Tart. Strawberry, if you'd like to know. So, okay, so the brother doesn't think it's the sister. But, so if it's not the sister, then it would have to be the sister's boyfriend. And I just have a hard time believing that the sister's boyfriend, or that that she wouldn't know, that Amanda wouldn't know that her boyfriend did something like that. I'm not sure if they're step or hole, but yeah, those were odd purchases. And now the son is thinking that that's not even her. It could be somebody dressed up like her. That would be crazy. That would be craziness if somebody did that, like dressed up as her. And oh my God, that is crazy. That would be like something that would have had to been planned. That's insane. Oh my God. And that would make sense why she didn't have part of her clothes. Because the person who went in the store was wearing her clothes. So it would be believable. That's my guess, is that they had her clothes so that they could go into Dollar General dressed up as her. Probably already had a wig. Because it's weird how her face is covered, you know? I love Peeps. No, she's looks white as can be. No, she just said that her son said that she hasn't. That he has doubts that it's her mom, or that it's his mom. He said he said that's not his mom's posture. So he doesn't even believe. I guess that would make sense for somebody to dress up like her if they're going to go make purchases. I mean, that's pretty genius. It wouldn't be that. I mean, if this guy's supposed to be like a drug addict, so he probably was really skinny and I don't think it's their daughter. I think it's the boyfriend who dressed up like her. Because the daughter's much bigger than her, so it couldn't have been the daughter. I believe the daughter's much bigger than her, if I remember correctly. But that's crazy. That is pretty like genius for somebody to do that. That does seem really likely, though, that somebody dressed up like her. I didn't even think like that. I didn't even think of that at all. An MMA wrestler.
Made and some of the lack of communication, it is hard to even know what could have happened. Now, Amanda said that she felt that Jeffrey was prolonging the process and is why the police weren't making a statement about the death being a suicide. But Jeffrey had some really good points. He was frustrated with the lack of information from law enforcement. He said he was getting it from the media, not from law enforcement. He said his family wasn't invited to the press conference about the case. And he also said that the sheriff laughed at him when he expressed concerns about his family's safety and the status of the investigation. So there was all kinds of things. Jeffrey filed complaints with the GBI and the FBI, and he called it that the sheriff actually resigns, and he wanted and demanded an apology pathology. Just to put this all in perspective in Debbie's death, Debbie would have ingested hydrocodone at some point. She went to a dollar store an hour out of town to get supplies and then drives back out of town. And as I said in my previous video, she would have had to do a U-turn to go back and choose the spot where she did, park, then she would strip down so she's partially clothed in a ravine. At some point she goes to a ravine, douse herself in gasoline. Reports are saying, the media said that it was actually in the vehicle first, and then she would light herself on fire, have 80% of her body burned with second-degree burns, third-degree burns, and no indication of her breathing any gases. Yet this is a suicide. So why go to these extremes too to choose this method? And it sounds silly, but the truth really is in the details. Why would you buy paper towels? What do you need those for? Or the brain poncho? She wouldn't need them. The question is, will this be brought forward, like Joseph Scott Morgan suggested, to a panel of experts to be reviewed? The autopsy findings suggest that she may have already been dead when she was burned, like the experts are saying. And why would a 59-year-old woman kill herself in that manner, in such a horrific way? And why is there so many discrepancies in the Debbie Collier case? To check out my other videos, check it out right here.
Okay, It's a Crime. That was really good. Here's her link. I'll put it also in the description. Please don't strike me. But anyways, yeah, that was pretty interesting. Somebody needs to give answers. It's like, why? We need answers on why evidence of why they believe it's a suicide. I agree. Nobody's going to strip naked and then to douse themselves in freaking gas or whatever she doused herself in. You're going to want the clothing to soak up the gas. And it just makes sense now. Maybe she was even already dead when that Dollar General trip happened. Maybe that was somebody dressed up like her. Oh my gosh, that is crazy. The son suspects the people who she hung around with before moving. It could be any one of them dressed up, but Amanda would have had to furnish the clothes. Well, if she was found partially naked, they probably undressed her and wore her clothes. I mean, because let's rewind this and let's see what she's wearing.
So Amanda's strength.
I mean, I should look at the feet. I wish I could see the feet. It's hard to say those, I'm trying to see how big the feet are because, men have bigger feet. That does look like a freaking. It does look like a guy's leg that's like, I don't know. I mean, how convenient is it that she's wearing a visor, She just so happens to be wearing a visor. It just seems to me something somebody would do to dress, if they were going to dress up like somebody, you would put on a hat. of course you would put on a hat to help obscure, you know. I don't know if she had a skirt or I'm trying to find a I mean, that is pretty, that's crazy. Where is she? Hold on. We need to talk to that cashier and say, and I wonder if she remembers if this was, if this lady spoke, if Debbie spoke, or like did anything stand out about this person? Also, why does a ghost? Yeah, and if you were a guy, wouldn't you put on some type of pantyhose to like kind of cover up your leg hair? You know, that's something you would do. It does look like she could be have some like white pantyhose on. It does kind of look like that. Hmm. So this is her. Yeah, something's very suspicious with this. I mean, I think that goes without saying. I don't know. I hope somebody can look more into this. Of course, you know, the local law enforcement isn't going to want to be proven wrong. Um, it would look bad, but you know, somebody can't just like get away with this. Yeah, no low neckline. True, but some guys don't have like chest hair. Especially, I mean, how old's her daughter? I mean, how old's the boyfriend? I'd like to see a picture of the boyfriend. I want to see if he's like a really skinny white dude with chicken legs. Because I just have a feeling my intuition is just telling me like let's see the boyfriend. Have we seen picture? I think there are pictures of the boyfriend out there somewhere. Let me look. What's her name? Amanda Bearden boyfriend. No. It wouldn't have been him. Yeah. Here, I'll show you guys. It wouldn't have been her or the boyfriend dressed up as her because they're both he has too big of legs. I'm trying to pull up some images here. So it wasn't it. It definitely was not him. He's short though. His legs I don't think his legs are. Do you guys think so? Wait, I think his legs are. Does he have? Yeah, I don't think so. I think he's probably too big to. He does seem short though. Yeah, some people need to be looked into for sure. She had planned to unalive herself and it all went wrong. MMA reality show. Well, it's definitely interesting. But guys, I'm going to go to bed. Today's one of those short nights. But this is definitely interesting. And he's an MMA fighter, probably removes his body hair regularly. Well, I'll have to compare tomorrow, but he does seem short, but I think his her legs look very, very skinny. Like she had one of those I don't know. She just looked like her legs were like too skinny for her body. I don't know. I need to see if I can find full body pictures of her. I'm going to have to look into that. So I want to see if I could see pictures of her or see her legs. I know it sounds creepy, but I want to just see her body build, you know? How can they confirm it was her? Oh, I will. I just need to go. I'm going to look into this more. What was confirmed to be her? The lady in the video? How could they confirm it was her, I wonder? Are these the same police that are saying that she unalived herself? Because if it is, then I don't know if I believe it. You know what I mean? Because it just seems like common sense to me that she didn't unalive herself. So it's kind of hard for me to believe the people who are saying that. Yeah, I still want to see full body pictures of her though, and not in a creepy way at all. So I'm gonna look for her social media and stuff tomorrow. You're probably right, Jam. I'm sure. And I'm sure they'd want people to, if they're really trying to say she unalived herself, then they're going to want people to believe that. Believe that it was her. I need to find a charger. My daughter stole mine. Be more footage. That would be cool. Was she married? Yeah, Jam. True that. I don't think I would dress that way to die. Well, she's kind of dressed like somebody who is depressed. You know, the way she's dressed in like baggy clothes and doesn't look like put together at all. But I go out in public like that all the time. Like I have no shame. So it doesn't mean that I'm depressed. It's just I don't care. But I think a lot of I mean I used to want to be hot dead, you know, like that, but yeah, that you're right. The daughter did just move back. Yeah, the naked thing is weird. It's so weird. All right. Good night, guys. I'll see you all tomorrow. Sweet dreams. Talk to you later. Adios.